Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Saturday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm meteorologist Dave Percy, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first on the hazardous weather graphic, the only thing illuminated here is St. Lawrence Island, Bering Strait coast, and southern Seward Peninsula coastline. That's a winter weather advisory out for tomorrow and tomorrow night, as the next storm brings some strong winds and 1 to 3 inches of snow, and along with the blowing snow and the winds, visibility will be reduced to half a mile or less at times. And again, that's out through Sunday night, starting tomorrow. Best chance probably kicking in tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow night. Otherwise, no watches, warnings, or advisories anywhere else in the state today. On satellite, we've got a band of moisture right through here. Front that's come inland and holding together a little better than the previous ones here over the last week or so that came in just vanished or vaporized. This one holding together pretty good. It's got a little bit of an upper trough hanging with it there, with higher pressure building out behind it and higher pressure in advance of that, and then higher pressure ahead of the big storm out here over the western Bering. But this is going to more or less continue to slowly edge its way northeastward. Big upper level high here, kind of holding it back in the northern areas. It'll end up shearing apart with one branch heading off to the north around the big high here, and another trough will form and drop southeastward into the Gulf and then southeast off the Panhandle, where today you had a few clouds around, actually some showers, light showers showing up on the radar south of Sitka toward Port Alexander and up into the Gulf today. Some light showers around Middleton Island, rain showers. Some of that even extending up into Prince William Sound, light rain or snow showers, depending on your location there, up into the Sound to about Portage Valley. But again, amounts very light and nothing significant at all. Light areas of snow here along this band of moisture becomes more showery and lighter still as you head down along the Alaska Range. Mostly sunny Cook Inlet today, eastern interior areas. And also in advance of this big storm, front pushing eastward brought about 2/3 of an inch of precipitation, mostly in the form of wet snow to Adak, accompanied by winds gusting 65 to 70 miles an hour out of the south today. And that's slowly advancing eastward. Atka gusts 55 miles per hour this afternoon, and gusts kicking up to about 40 miles an hour at St. George and also over at Nikolsky there. And strong low center out back to the west there towards Shumia. They're seeing 40 to 60 mile an hour winds with that, with rain and snow showers. And for tonight, that front will continue eastward, slowly weaken, but still some good gales in advance of that coming in towards Nikolsky. So winds on the increase on the Pribilofs. Precipitation possibly starting late tonight, maybe holding off till early tomorrow morning. But definitely the winds will increase before that, and then the winds increasing here for the eastern Aleutians, but staying dry, and lots of wind and showers in the form of rain or snow here back behind the front, especially in toward the main stronger low center out there that's slowly weakening. And we've got this thing coming eastward here, a very weak trough in spite of the 1,037 millibar high over the central interior. Looks to be mostly cloudy over most of interior Alaska with some areas of light snow along the trough, isolated snow showers or flurries back to the west, and any amounts here would be under an inch. I mean, an inch tops, and that's about it. And then drying out back to the southwest here, and maybe some light precipitation over the Alaska Peninsula. Southeast coast, maybe some isolated snow showers here along the coastline, really isolated. Otherwise, no change, maybe a few more clouds here in the north, but channeled winds about 30 to 45 miles an hour in areas. Most areas seeing a lot less than that tonight. And kicking on into tomorrow, we'll see this band, actually a fair amount of moisture continues to feed northward into it. So as this slips southeastward, there's a fair chance we'll see could see some light snow coming across Cook Inlet, Manuskin, sit in the valley. Anywhere, again, an inch would be about most anywhere would see. Probably a lot less. Some areas won't see anything at all, but there is a chance of some light snow as this upper trough kicks through. Again, that'll be sliding off the southeast coast, and as that upper low begins to enter the Gulf of Alaska, it's going to enhance the snow shower activity, or the shower activity there. Could be in the form of rain or snow or a mixture there, but it'll stay west of the Panhandle. Another sunny day there with light winds and mostly cloudy over the interior. You could see a little more clearing back through here than what I've got shown, but not too bad all the way up to the Arctic coast. Dry, increasing winds here, though, along the coastline as this front presses eastward and slowly weakening. Snow and blowing snow moving into the St. Lawrence Island area down, possibly Nunivak Island. That mostly probably coming in tomorrow night. Mixture of precipitation over the Pribilofs and kind of wet and breezy down to the eastern Aleutians. Showers out behind. Not too bad, though, with the main low center now pulling up to the Russian Far East coast. Outlook for Monday. This system holds together better as it makes landfall along the coast. You can see the precipitation field edging all the way into the Kuskokwim Valley here by Monday afternoon, extending back to the western Arctic coast. South to north flow, mild temperatures, mixture of rain or snow. Nunivak Island, Kuskokwim Delta, northern Bristol Bay, rain. Alaska Peninsula, winds not all that strong, probably under gale force here. Could see some gale force winds in advance of the front in a narrow band there, but really snow and blowing snow moving in from St. Lawrence Island. You can see a good improvement there Monday, especially Monday afternoon. Light winds and precipitation ending, but the snow and blowing snow will shift in across Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, and from the lower Yukon River Valley up across the northwest interior to the western Arctic coast. Rain and snow showers scattered around the eastern Aleutians, enhanced a little bit here with another disturbance. And it looks like high pressure breaking down after one more mostly sunny day over the central and eastern interior in the Panhandle. That's about it. It'll break down. This thing will come right on in on Tuesday, and then good southwest flow will bring a series of storms in from the southwest during the upcoming week right into the interior. Otherwise, low temperatures for tonight for the Panhandle. Looking mostly in the teens to upper 20s there, a little below zero in the Copper River Basin and 5 to 15 below over the eastern interior. Single numbers in the Arctic coast, 5 to 15 or 0 to 15 here south central Alaska. Upper 20s Bristol Bay to near freezing over the Pribilofs. Highs for tomorrow, lower 30s, 30 to 35 southern Alaska, mid 20s Tanana Valley, otherwise teens all the way up to the Arctic coast. Highs in the 30s to lower 40s. For the southeast coast, and in the lower to mid 40s here for Bristol Bay to Kodiak Island, and near 40 for the Aleutians. Lows the following morning, 5 to 15 below over the eastern interior, and upper 20s to lower 30s for the southwest coast, mid 30s for the central Aleutians, and warmest here over the Alaska Peninsula. Highs on Monday, teens east to mid 30s west.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Got a lot of IFR into the interior here. Northward to the Brooks Range, central western Arctic coast, southward to northeast Bristol Bay, and along the Alaska Range, some of that spilling into northern Cook Inlet, and another band IFR out here in the Bering Sea, and some more yet out toward Chimney-Attu. Otherwise, VFR for the Panhandle. VFR continues to the southeast coast through tomorrow. IFR shifting eastward and sort of dissipating in the afternoon here over the southeast interior. Otherwise, marginal VFR and an area of VFR across the Brooks Range up through this area. And IFR here approaching the southwest coast. And for Monday morning, that kind of expands out here from St. Matthew Island right in across the Yukon Delta, northward to the Seward Peninsula, Bering Strait, southward across the Pribilofs and toward eastern Aleutians, improving back out to the west. And IFR here over the east central interior areas, and then back southwestward right across Cook Inlet and the Kenai Peninsula on down to Kodiak Island. It stays VFR over the southeast coast, and some IFR along and off the coast there of the eastern Arctic, and VFR back to the west. And for the afternoon on Monday, IFR holding here over the northern Bering Sea in along the west and southwest coast to about Togiak Bay, otherwise marginal for Bristol Bay, marginal for Kodiak, south central Alaska. Much of the interior looks rather marginal until you get north of the Brooks Range. And from about Yakutat on down to Dixon Entrance stays VFR. Passes Anatuvik. Tomorrow, marginal VFR trending toward VFR in the afternoon. That forecast also good for Adigan. And for Lake Clark and Merrill, starting out marginal, trending toward VFR into the afternoon. Same trend for Rainy as that weak disturbance passes on by to the east slowly. And for Windy, IFR becoming marginal. And for Isabel, marginal VFR at times throughout the day. Mentasto looking rather marginal. Tanita as well, marginal VFR occasionally. And for Portage, starting out marginal, becoming VFR in the afternoon. Chilcoot and White, VFR. Checking out the freezing levels. Not much to look at here. At the surface, St. Matthew Island down to the Alaska Peninsula, hugging the coastline and the outer coastline of the southeast coast. And for icing, we've got a band of possible considerable moderate here, especially around the eastern Aleutians, edging its way eastward tomorrow, but barely making it to St. Lawrence Island in the afternoon, staying west of Nunivak Island. And then with that disturbance coming through the interior here and then beginning to take a dive to the southeast, just some possible isolated areas of light icing with that, probably nothing too significant at all. Taking a look at the jet stream, there's that weak upper trough signature right through here coming through with big high here to the east over the Yukon, so this will begin to slide off to the southeast after tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening. Otherwise, high pressure coming in behind it, still south to north flow here out over the Bering Sea, but that's going to begin pressing in toward the coast tomorrow night and into the first of next week, and may just break through altogether by the middle of next week. And for the 9,000-foot winds, big storm out here again over the western Bering Sea. Southwesterlies 35 to 45, some cases as high as 50 knots here, especially from north of the chain across eastern Bering all the way up to St. Lawrence Island at about 50 knots, and then about 20 here into eastern Bristol Bay. Light over the interior, 10 to 20 at the most, and pretty light winds over the southeast coastal areas. And taking a look at the 3,000-foot wind flow chart here, still offshore flow for the Panhandle, keeping it dry, and of course VFR as far as flying goes, but just 5 to 10 knots, nothing too terribly strong. High pressure in the Gulf, light winds around that. Kodiak Island, North Gulf Coast, 5 to 10. Pretty light over the interior as well, maybe 15 eastern Arctic coastal areas, and then the southerlies here with the storm center way out there to the west. We've got a band of southerlies at about 35 to 45 knots here coming across the Alaska Peninsula and eastern Aleutians, up to 55 or 50 knots. Nunivak Island, about 45 into the Bering Strait, turning more westerly and west-southwest out here, south of the low center, 32, maybe 45 knots there. Taking a look at turbulence, quite an area of moderate chop expected. Considerable moderate below about 6,000 feet there from Cape Lisburne, southward Seward Peninsula, all the way down to Togiak Bay, including St. Lawrence Island, and expect moderate chop for the Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula areas, but smooth over the central and eastern interior.
When you think of a national park, you probably envision wide open natural spaces undisturbed by human activity. There are indeed such places, but even in some of the most remote areas of a place like Kenai Fjords National Park in Alaska, the mark of man is present. Marine debris is a menace to the farthest reaches of our globe, and even designated national park lands are not immune. In the summer of 2009, the Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance, a grassroots conservation organization based in Seward, Alaska, decided to do something about the marine debris fouling the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park. Marine debris coordinator Tim Johnson had first-hand experience with the issue.
The summer before, my wife and I, Michelle, had done a paddle from Seward, sea kayak paddle from Seward to Homer. Really, our eyes were open to some areas that we didn't realize there was so much accumulation. It was very deceiving up front. You couldn't really get a feel for the extent and impact of it. You've got this nice high tide line that's quite pristine, and you really don't get a picture for the impact, the amount of debris in that area until you get behind those storm berms. You get back into the lagoons and the vegetation around those lagoons. And then you see the absolute extent back into that veg and how intertwined and enmeshed these decades of trash deposition. So we were just appalled by that and said we got to get something together on a larger scale.
The Resurrection Bay Conservation Alliance is a local nonprofit community organization, and they have been instrumental in helping the Park Service obtain funding to get larger boats to help move the debris, and they get volunteer labor and organize the work trips. And so it's really a partnership between the Park Service and the community to help get out and really get a project done that in and of itself any one group couldn't do on their own.
Most of that trash was baggable. However, there were large items, huge, piles of hauser line, for example, that we just had to hoist up onto the boat.
The volunteers didn't just bag, haul, and hoist the garbage, but also carefully recorded what types of debris were collected.
In many ways, the debris itself is a resource. Archaeologists use middens, the trash heaps, as a way of analyzing past cultures. And in one sense, marine debris is a form of a midden. It's a trash heap that left for the future would be something that people could use to analyze our culture. It may not say the best things about our culture or everything that we want, but we need to be able to document what we've done so that we can preserve that legacy, make sure that we as a society don't forget what we've been doing.
We had two larger categories of marine debris that we picked up. Commercial fishing means like, say, gill nets, large hauser lines, anything that would be associated with more of a commercial fishing scale. And then the second category was more recreational fishing and household, which would be general plastics, things like that. So we had about a 75% of the commercial fishing marine debris element, and about 25% of the recreational and household further out the bay. And we had the exact opposite the closer we got to Seward. Within the bay, it was about 25% commercial fishing versus 75% recreational fishing and household.
The trash is not just unsightly for park visitors, but also poses threats to wildlife and marine habitat.
Really one of the larger issues now that you go to this plastic that can really get into the food web and affect the food web differently than something like glass.
These substances, for instance, all these polystyrene blocks that are breaking down into all these little crumbly bits are further breaking down on a microscopic level, and how much of an impact that has, in this ecosystem is yet to be determined, but I think it's got pretty high potential.
Well known that sea turtles will eat plastic bags floating in the water. They look like jellyfish to a sea turtle, and obviously a plastic bag doesn't go well in the digestive system of a turtle. Albatross will see small pieces of plastic floating on the surface and think they're small fish and other food sources and eat that in their stomachs, especially in some of the northwestern Hawaiian Islands, they'll find dead albatross that have starved to death with a full stomach, and it's full of pieces of plastic.
We're affecting our local areas this way, but we need to be thinking about it from more of a state and global, international scale. And most importantly, to try and focus on prevention of it coming in the first place. Because we're just going to see this continuing, to build up on our beaches unless we're able to get a little bit more of an approach on prevention on the front end.
Marine debris is really a global problem, in all the oceans, and there are many different sources. Global shipping is one. Fishing debris from commercial fishing, recreational boating activity on land, stuff blowing off land, washing down streams, people just throwing stuff on the shore.
Though the problem can seem overwhelming, Johnson remains upbeat about making a positive difference.
No, you gotta start locally. You gotta take control of what you can do, and make something with that, and try and move on from there.
Overall, more than 9 tons of debris was removed from the beaches of Kenai Fjords National Park and transported back to Seward to be deposited in a landfill.
People gave a lot to the project in order to make it happen. That was awesome. One of the most amazing experiences I've ever had. Being able to put that large of a group of volunteers together, dedicated volunteers to put that much effort and give that much time and pull all the different agencies together to see it all happen was incredible. It was incredible. Yeah, very fulfilling experience.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Looking at today's sea ice analysis, again, really south of the Bering Strait, not a whole lot left, just light stuff here in the blue shaded areas, Norton Sound, in across St. Lawrence Island, and then a little bit now down the Yukon Delta coast into Kuskokwim Bay. And looks like those southerly winds will continue at least for the next couple of days. By the middle of next week, at least through this area here, the winds will go from south and become more east or east-northeast, starting roughly around the middle of the week and probably continuing into the weekend. Coastal water forecast for tomorrow, east-northeast at 10 for the south coast of the Panhandle, east 10 to 15 on the north coast. Small craft advisories again for Lynn Canal and Stevens Passage, 25 knots out of the north, northeast 15 for Clarence Strait. Outlook for Monday, north 25, Lynn Canal, north 20 for Clarence Strait, and north at 10, north 20 for Stevens Passage. Winds light for Clarence Strait. Light northeasterlies here on the south coast and light east northeasterlies at about 10 on the north coast. And these seas just 4 to 5 feet. And out west, Cook Inlet here, north 10 to 15 tomorrow, northeast 15 for Kamishak Bay, and northeast 15 for the western North Gulf Coast. Otherwise, pretty light winds for the Barren Islands, and northeast at 10 for Prince William Sound, north 10 for the eastern North Gulf Coast. And those light wind conditions continue into Monday. East-northeasterlies here, Prince William Sound and the North Gulf Coast, northeast 10 for the Barren Islands. Seas 1 to 2 feet here for the the offshore coastline areas. And Cook Inlet, northeast 15 with 3-foot seas. Kamishak Bay, east at 15. And for the Kodiak Island zones, southeast 10 tomorrow, pretty light winds there. Sitkinak, Castle Cape, south 15. And then 20 to 25 knot southeast winds for the Alaska Peninsula, southeast 25 for small craft advisories in Bristol Bay. And then for Monday, southeast 30 knots here, Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, except the Pacific, more of a southerly direction on those 30 knot winds with seas approaching 16 feet. Small craft advisories, Castle Cape to Sitkinak, south 25 knots, but east side of Kodiak, Shelikof Strait, south to southeast, only at 15 knots with 2 to 4 foot seas. And out west here, still storm warnings tomorrow for Sunday for the far western Aleutians, southwest 50 knots, about 40 knots here from Kiska in toward Adak, and then down to 20 to 25 for the central Aleutian areas behind the front. In advance of the front, gale force winds, south-southeast 35 to 40 knots here for the Fox Islands. And then those come down on Monday. Southerlies at about 30 across Unalaska Island, otherwise west-southwest 25, Unamac Island, southwest 25, central Aleutians, and 30-knot winds out of the southwest for areas west of Adak on out to Attu Island. And for the southwest coast tomorrow, gale force southeasterlies north of Nunivak Island at about 30 knots with 10-foot seas south of the island. 40-knot winds there from the southeast for St. Lawrence Island, and 45-knot winds here for St. Matthew Island, with about 40-knot southeasterly winds in the forecast for the Pribilofs, with seas up to 20 feet. And then those drop off to east 15 on Monday there for the Pribilofs, otherwise south to southeast 20 to 30 knots for the southwest coast, 25 knots St. Matthew Island, and south 20 for St. Lawrence Island, southeast 25 for Norton Sound. And for the eastern Beaufort Sea coast, brisk wind advisories here, well, actually from the central coast eastward to Demarcation Point, 25 to 30 knots there from mostly westerly directions. Lighter winds, south 20 here on the west coast, or on the west coastal areas, and then from Cape Beaufort on down, brisk wind advisories again for 25-knot winds. Those turn into gale force winds on Monday there from Wales up to Cape Beaufort, south to southeast 35 knots. Brisk wind advisories central and west coast. Lighter winds now on the east side, southeast roughly at around 20. For tonight, we've got this weak disturbance bringing chances of snow as it passes eastward. It'll be mostly cloudy with maybe some scattered flurries or snow showers. Most areas central east side up to the northwest, dry back to the southwest, dry for the panhandle, with showers lurking off the coast, scattered showers. This wind and rain pattern pushes into the Pribilofs, gale force winds with that front, but the main low staying back to the west as the previous ones have. So the front will slowly weaken, but still winter weather advisories come into St. Lawrence Island tomorrow night, and a chance of snow across south central Alaska with this trough tomorrow. Very slight chance, stays fair over the panhandle. Next system holds together better as it brings wind, rain, and snow into the west coast.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.